To that breaking news out of California, police in Stockton arresting this man suspected of killing 6 men and wounding 1 woman in a series of shootings in Stockton and Oakland. Authorities searching for the serial killer since July, putting both communities on edge. Officers now saying that tips helped lead them to the 43-year-old's arrest. NewsNation's Ryan Bass live tonight with this breaking story. Ryan, what are we learning about the suspect and what he was doing when police caught him?
Well, Natasha, we're learning that he was hunting his next victim as police were following him. That is according to Stockton PD. Thank goodness that they were actually trailing him and were able to cuff him before he could potentially hurt anybody else. Stockton PD arrested their suspect, 43-year-old Wesley Brownlee, following him as he was driving around at about 2 o'clock earlier this morning. Arresting him. He had a gun on him, by the way. They were able to catch him thanks to tips from the community. They got hundreds of them. The police chief said that they likely stopped another murder.
The team followed this person while he was driving. We watched his patterns and determined early this morning he was on a mission to kill. As officers made contact with him, he was wearing dark clothing and had a mask around his neck. He was also armed with a firearm when he was taken into custody.
Now, police have linked 7 shootings, 6 of them that were deadly, to this case with this serial killer, matching them with ballistics and video evidence to try and catch their killer. These slayings, Natasha, have stemmed back to April of last year. This is a community that has been on edge. They've been afraid to leave their houses alone at night, so certainly thankful for some relief for them. Hundreds of tips, as I mentioned, into the PD and into the police, helped them actually catch this serial killer. As for Brownlee, he is scheduled to be arraigned earlier next week. We will then learn his charges. Natasha.
Absolutely. Ryan Bass live for us this evening. Thank you. And police certainly say that community tips helped capture their suspect. One private Facebook group has been helping unite the Stockton community. They would not rest until the killer was found. Joining us now by phone is the administrator of Stockton serial killer community. She has asked us not to reveal her name for safety reasons, and we respect that. Thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Thank you for having me. I certainly appreciate the opportunity.
First, your reaction to the news tonight.
I'm overwhelmed with relief from my community, and I feel that we can finally move forward towards justice. We've been really locked down in a state of fear and anxiety over the last 2 weeks, and to have this, it's an absolute victory for the community today.
Absolutely. I'm a Bay Area native as well. I understand what a tightly knit community this is. And can you describe what it has been like in these past weeks and months, knowing that there was a killer on the loose who cased victims earlier on, who looked for secluded areas, potentially under the cover of trees, no cameras present to commit his crimes? What has it been like? How terrorizing has this been?
Well, as you know, the community only was actually made aware that we had a potential serial killer within the last 2 weeks. Prior to that, we were just very concerned as a community as to the rising crimes, especially as it related to violent crimes and murder specifically. But when this was announced in the community, it spread like wildfire, and so much fear, so much anxiety, frustration, you know, naturally, and anger, quite frankly, that a community that has already been traumatized by ongoing violent crime would now have to deal with an added layer of having a serial killer around. It's just an unprecedented, difficult time in the community.
Yeah, can you talk a little bit more about that? Sorry to interrupt. Can you talk a little more about that anger and frustration? What are the biggest frustrations surrounding this case for you?
Well, I mean, just, I think, you know, on the biggest issue was just really not knowing who this individual was, and feeling like, you know, is this person someone that, you know, the community has worked with within their job or has passed on the streets, and you know, is it really that he's targeting homeless people and Hispanic people, or is he more just out to kill anyone? And not knowing, you know, whether or not your family may be targeted is extremely stressful, and rightly so.
I absolutely hear you. I certainly appreciate your time, and hopefully a sigh of relief for many in the community as police say they have their man. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.